terms of transformation in Parliament is about how we digitalize the archives and the opportunities that it gave us. We have inside the Parliament the constraints to on one side follow the regulatory frameworks that we have to, and on the other side to follow democratic continuity and to support democratic continuity. So on one side, we have a very strong regulation, which is one adopted in 1983 by the Council and the Parliament, that defines when documents should be transferred to the archives of the European Parliament and kept and open to the public. So that's really the legal framework that we have to follow. And on the other side, there is also the democratic continuity, and democratic continuity is about ensuring that we give a proof that the Parliament is accountable for what it's doing. So through that, through archiving and making a public access to documents, we can make ourselves accountable and demonstrate that our democratic credential is well managed, and that records are the means by which citizens can understand the who, when, where, how, or the why of the Parliament action, so that we can keep track of all decisions and all elements which are really important for the continuation of the activities of the Parliament and the legislative activities. This enables us to have a certain number of opportunities. Among these opportunities, on one side, it enables us to establish a decision-making process for business continuity and to document it. Because it's legal, then of course, in the context of enterprise architecture, what is appreciated is to describe the flows that will be related to archiving activities. That includes, of course, the processing, but also how you get the elements and how you make them available to the public, and the frameworks, all the frameworks and rules that you have to follow. But at least you make it clear so that it is totally accessible to anybody who would like to know how the archives are working based on these legal requirements. The second one is to improve accountability. As I mentioned before, having this framework in place enables us to bring to the public the attention of a certain number of documents. In our context is everything which is more than 30 years. So all documents from 1952 that we have in the EP archives are made accessible until 30 years ago from now, which is the duration by which we have to provide elements. And we receive a lot of questions. We have one question every day, more than one question every day to answer from citizens, from legal departments, from the transparency, but also we have provided some digital access to these documents for the citizen, and we have more than 300 use of this dashboard every month. So meaning that every month we have the same number of use of this electronic means to access our public documents compared to the requests that we receive by mail and that we have to enter. The third point is to protect rights, obligations for the organization and individuals. When you are making archives, in this case, you have to ensure that only the agreed person or the authorized person will have the right to view and access your document, and that's pretty important in the context mainly of personal data. But it also enables you to reduce costs for a better efficiency, a better administrative efficiency, because while this is related to a legal constraints and you try to describe it, by describing it, we can also work on improvements. So this is also part of a permanent cycle of improvements that we can define on which place we can digitalize some actions, gain time, and in the end gain resources. And the last point is also to facilitate the search and to protect the memory of the institution. It's extremely, extremely important. When future generations will come, when they will ask questions about how the COVID-19 situation was managed, they will have to go to the archive, because it will be in 15, 20 years. And from now, nobody will still have the memory of what took place. So managing the archives is, in the same time, a way to protect the memory of the institution and to be able to answer to this one. We have very, very frequently to provide elements for various services. So the life cycle of documents inside parliaments is almost always the same everywhere in all DGs inside our own parliaments or in each directorate generals, but it's very similar in all parliaments. We have one first thing by which you create a file, and the file could be or created from an information system or from a paper document, or it could come from an office suite by which you create it. And it's true that since mid-80s, I would say, when computers was broadly used, there's been an explosion of the use of digitally born document compared to paper-born documents. And with the COVID-19 situation and the digitalization forced of many processes inside the parliaments, but everywhere in the world, there's been a huge increase of the production of digitally born documents compared to paper ones. So the point of the archiving is, okay, you create your documents, you have to store it somewhere, and you have to give the proper access to your document. This is what we call current archives. And once this document is no more in use, then you start on the second phase, which is called the intermediate archives. All documents in parliaments have this life cycle by which you say, okay, I create my documents, and during a certain period, I could still make use of this one inside the operational entity that has created it. For instance, you have a report which is produced, or a bill which is produced by a committee. You will say, okay, I have a legislature of 5 years. And I would estimate that, okay, we are working on this topic. So during the 5 years, we keep it as a current archive. And once we end, we will add an additional 5 years for the next legislature to come, because maybe this document will still be important in the next legislature. Maybe we still have to debate on this one. Maybe we still need to amend this act so that it's much more precise and corresponds to the evolution of the society. And you will consider that, okay, the first 5 years will be in the current archives, and after 5 years more, meaning 10 years, we will consider that this is the end of the administrative retention period. At this time, you will have to take a decision. Or you estimate that the file has an historical value and you keep it, or you don't and you destroy it. And with digital archives, because more and more, as I said, we have more documents coming in digital version, we have 70,000, the equivalent of 70,000 pages that were delivered since the beginning of the year to the archives of the parliament, compared to 700 million digital pages delivered. So just to give you an order of idea that we are really talking about digital transformation. But at this time, you have to decide, okay, I keep or I don't keep. And this is described into filling plans that clearly tells you, okay, this document you keep, this one you don't. So there's no decision or no a priori to have. You just take your file, you read the table which has been agreed for the administration and say, okay, this document is this one. After this number of years, I have to take the decision, destroy, keep. If I keep, I transfer to the archive, and then it becomes the point to store this one. So with this flow, what are the potential issues that you may face? You may face fragmentation, duplication, and loss of information. This is mainly due to the fact that we have a lot of information systems, really a lot of them. We have more than 300 applications in the parliament. So you have to find a way to ensure that when several components are working through several applications on the same topic, you collect them, you do not duplicate, and more important that you ensure to keep this one. Information deterioration. This comes with paper files, but also with digital version with some formats that you will not be in a position to keep for a long period. So we are using PDF to store documents, PDFA, but you have to ensure that some exotic format that may arrive, because you may have some documents provided by citizens in some format, you will not be in a position to keep them necessarily. You have to transform them in something that you can keep for a long period. The expenses for storage, we have 2.6 kilometers of archives, paper file. You may think it's important, trust me, it's not. It's very small. We digitalize a lot of the archives of the parliament. If we compare to the Commission, the European Commission has 140 kilometers, and the Council is close to 40, 45 kilometers. And any national entity is largely over the hundreds kilometers. In France, is more, for National Archives, more than 300 kilometers, if I remember well. So it's extremely huge. We are taking a lot of storage and links to expenses because you have to have energy, and you have to have square meters for storing them, and this costs money. So digitalization also help us to focus on that, but still there's the question of the cost of the equipment, the energy that needs to store them. Security failures. Well, with the current context in cybersecurity, it's obvious that you want to keep safe your archives. This includes digital archives and really needs to be secured. And the last one is a waste of time in archive treatment. Accessing to the document is a public right. So citizens may ask to access some documents in a certain time frame, and this time frame is fixed by regulation. So they have 12 days to receive an answer when they ask for a document. So within this time, you can imagine that we don't have a lot of time to browse into a large collection of paper or unstructured files. We have to have efficient information system with the appropriate metadata to make sure that we can find very rapidly the document, digitalized, we hope, and if not, to access it based on inventory and then scan it and then provide the answer to the citizen. So this is just a small frame given to you about archiving, digital archiving, the issues we may have, but also the potential elements it brings to the various parliaments and opportunities we have by working on this topic. Thank you very much.